Hello, Canucks fans, and welcome back to another episode of Canucks Conversation. Absolutely fired up on this Wednesday edition of Canucks Conversation, which is brought to you by our friends over at Greta. Greta is a great spot for all games, home and away. Harmon, where is the best place to watch Aatu Raty win draws from?
Greta.
Absolutely. That's right. And we'll be there for all the Canucks Army viewing parties throughout the season. Details on that are coming soon. I got the first date. I want to tell everybody, but I'm being instructed not to. Tickets are going to be on sale soon. Make sure you check out Greta Bar YVR, weekly drink specials, tons of games, tons of different food options as well. Check out Greta Bar YVR today. 50 West Cordova Street is the address. Let the games begin. My name is David Quadrelli. Joining me is Harmon Dial, here to break down the Vancouver Canucks' first preseason win while previewing their next game. Back-to-back games today. It's a busy show today. We don't have a guest today because there's a lot to talk about. Harmon, let's start with last night's game. Let's start with Aatu Raty. I feel like he's the story from this game. And look, we're going to have to talk Linus Karlsson at some point because he actually had a pretty solid game. And you and I we don't sit next to each other in the press box, but the four seats that are in between us, none of those people showed up. So every time Linus Karlsson did something, I was looking right over at you. You were looking right over at me. And we had a few good laughs in the press box because it's a strong game for Linus Karlsson, but an especially strong game for Aatu Raty. He went 14 for 18 on the draw. To me, that's the story. Like, that's the edge that he's going to have on making this team. And he's going to be a big topic of today's show. A really, really solid night as we see the stat line here from Jeff Patterson. Obviously, he gets the assist, 2 shots on 5 attempts, 3 hits, a giveaway and a takeaway, 2 block shots, and of course, 14 wins and just 4 losses in the faceoff dot last night.
It was just a masterful all-around performance. What I mentioned on yesterday's show was I want to see him dialed in with the details of playing as a centerman, and on both ends of the ice, with the puck, without the puck, he was enormously impressive. I think first and foremost, the first thing that stood out is his skating looks significantly better than last year. The way that he's able to get up the ice, there were situations where he was, let's say, coming really deep in the defensive zone to help lead a breakout, and then in the past, he might have struggled to join the play, get up the ice, move north-south, but he seemed to catch up in those instances, even on the forecheck. I remember right from one of the first shifts of the game, Garland was engaging with a Seattle defender behind the Seattle net on the forecheck. Raty swooped in at the perfect time as the F2 to steal the puck away. That's the same play that I think last year or 2 years ago, he would have been a fraction of a second too late. And now all of a sudden, that play that resulted in a Canucks offense's own possession, the Seattle still controls the puck. They're able to break out the other way. I also loved that every touch that he had with the puck was quick and decisive, right? Everything was bang, bang. He was playing with a ton of confidence. That also was fully on display on the power play assist he had with the pass down low to Karlsson back into the bumper for Goaltender for the tic-tac-toe. But consistently on the breakout, even when he was under pressure. That's often the biggest test for young centers when they're making the jump from the American League to the NHL is you don't have time to examine your options and decide what you're going to do when you get the puck. You need to know what your next play is already going to be. That's something that Rick Tocchet mentioned that Archie Bains, for example, needs to improve on when we talked to him about Bains at training camp. That's something that Vasily Podkolzin struggled with at times. Raty nailed that, had a lot of one-touch passes, and even defensively, I was so impressed when Jaden Schwartz had the puck behind the net. The Kraken were scrambling all around Shilovs, generating pressure. Raty swoops in, pickpockets Schwartz, who's a top 6 NHL player, and the Canucks are able to cleanly break out and relieve the pressure. So an unbelievable start. Obviously, the consistency aspect is going to be huge. It's just one game, but he looked like a completely different player than what I've seen previously.
Fit in with NHL players. Like, I think that's the big thing to me. He's playing with NHL guys, and he didn't look out of place. Like, that bodes really well for his chances of making this team. He's got another shot. He's in the lineup tonight when the Canucks visit the Flames. We're going to preview that game a bit, and of course, we'll probably talk about Raty a little bit more. But anything else from that game that really stood out to you? Because first of all, I want to say Archer Shilovs was remarkable. There's some concern, I think, with some of the defensive player around him, but it's the preseason, right? I thought Derek Forbort had a pretty tough game. He did make a couple plays where it was just immediately evident where you're like, yeah, that's an NHL player. Like that's an NHL decision. That's an NHL defenseman that's been in the league for a while, knows the right play to make. There was a few of those, but also there was that giveaway that led to Shilov's greatest save of the night. But it was a horrible giveaway. Like I wrote an instant reaction that Lucas Pisa was watching that game at home and shook his head and said, boards and out, got to go boards and out there, because it was just a dreadful giveaway from Forbert. But Shilov's was phenomenal in that game. I really liked what I saw from Archer Shilov's in goal. Anything that you want to say about Shilov's?
Yeah, I mean, just he impresses me with how athletic and explosive his movement is. That's the biggest thing. It feels like he's never out of a play. And you'll remember the sort of chance where there was initial, I think, a Montour chance where he stepped into the middle, shot deflected off a leg, bounced to the left of Shilov's, and Shilov's was able to lunge his body and seal the post, make an unbelievable stop. It's that he just has those raw tools, and of course there are details that he'll need to improve. When we look at last season, for example, tracking shots through traffic from long distances was an issue. But when I see that level of athleticism and explosiveness, you can really see why he has such an exciting ceiling as an NHL goaltender.
Okay, we also have to talk about Jonathan Lekkerimäki last night. I thought he started the game a little tough. Like, I really noticed him not going into board battles, which obviously isn't something that Tocchet's going to want to see. Slow decision-making with the puck, which really isn't his game. So that was the first period. I thought that it was a tale of not two halves, because I think he figured it out by the second period. But that first period, maybe some jitters, got bodied on his first shift. That did not look good for him. He just got bullied off the puck, which is what you don't want to see. And then I think from the second period onward, he really settled in. Even that play at the end of the game where Pius Suter got the empty netter, it was a really smart play. He doesn't freak out and rifle it off the boards like Elias Pettersson did a few times. Lekkerimäki's out there and he put it off the boards in a manner which Suter would be the next player to touch the puck. And obviously Pius Suter goes on to ice the game, which ended by a final score of 3-1. But on the topic of Lekkerimäki, I thought he really settled in. I thought his poise with the puck, especially on the power play, like we knew it was going to be good, but how does he deal with that smaller ice surface? I thought he did a really good job basically from the second period onward all over the game.
Yeah, I think it was a decent showing for the context that, okay, it's his first preseason game. In my mind, he's going to need to reach a higher level if he wants to break the team out of camp, just because it's a difficult numbers game. And especially for a guy like Lekkerimäki that can be so easily sent down to the American League, you've got to dominate so that the coaching staff and management feels that, okay, we're willing to risk losing guys on waivers. Just because Lekkerimäki's been that good and he needs to be on the team. I agree with you. The longer the game went on, it felt like the nerves started to dissipate. I really liked a couple of passes that he had off the rush. There was one where I think he went in on the left side, made a nice feed into space for Besser, and it led to a dangerous chance where Besser was trying to find Suter on the back door for a shot pass. That could have easily been a goal. And also the play where he drew the penalty. Another clean entry, nice area pass again to Besser, and he has a center lane drive to the net. He draws the hooking penalty. You like to see plays like that. He looked generally sharp on the power play. I thought it was a decent showing overall, considering it's his first preseason outing.
I also wanted to give some love to Brock Besser, Connor Garland, and Nils Höglander, the three of them. And I know Raty was a part of that line with Garland and Höglander, but the three of them, especially Besser, they just looked a step above everybody else. Like, they just looked like NHL players. They looked like they were the best players on the ice when they were out there. Even Brock, like I was looking at Brock, again, they're not bad players or anything like that, but he's playing with a bunch of non-NHLers. Like, Brock was running the power play last night, and I thought he did a really good job. We saw him walk the line a couple times there, channeling his inner Quinn Hughes. It was a really good showing from Brock, not to mention Philip Hronek, who, again, had a really strong camp, let go of that bomb of a shot. One of them missed the net by about 10 feet, but then the second one obviously went in, deflected off Will Borgen, who was Borgen all over the place. Did you want to talk about this Tyler Myers little scrum at the end? Because it has to do with Will Borgen. This was at the end of the second period. I think we have the clip here. Technical producer Jacob Lazar pulling it up here for us. Will Borgens pushes Connor Garland into the boards at the end of the second period. And Tyler Myers, post-game, talked about this and said that the guys were saying he looked like Superman coming in there. And obviously Tyler Myers jumps in and goes after Will Borgen. look, that replay makes it look really bad. I am very glad that Will Borgen's head wasn't the main point of contact or got slammed into the boards or anything like that. But I said it right away. Like Borgen, John Hayden. I was even saying it to Passagebulis, Daniel Wagner. They were sitting next to me in the press box. I'm like, what are these guys doing? Like Brandon Tanev too. These cross checks to the numbers. Like, what are you doing? It's a preseason game. The rivalry's alive and well. We know that. I think that's something we learned last night. That like this is going to be a rivalry. These teams meet again on Friday, so that's going to be one that you're definitely going to want to watch. But I was like, what are we doing here? Like what are we doing? It's the preseason. I'm not saying don't try, but these dirty little plays, I was just like, wow, like we're really doing this in the preseason. And the Canucks answered pretty well. But I think it was Seattle that kind of set that tone.
It was an oddly chippy game. Even Ben Meyer's cross check on Friedman was super dirty, I thought.
Not to mention the spear that knocked Friedman down in the first. I don't know if you saw that.
I didn't see that.
He got speared in the nuts. Jeez. And then that was the first time Friedman went down.
Well, this is what happens when you have a monster like Vilmer Ulrichsen, just makes the entire Seattle squad insecure. But in all seriousness, it was pretty impressive for him as well. Obviously, Ulrichsen is a long-term project. He's not close to making the team. He'll go back to junior and hopefully have a good season. But for him to get this one preseason game and at least leave some type of impression, huge hit there, holds his own pretty well in that fight against Hayden, who is a tough customer. And then I think it was really cool seeing all his teammates like Connor Garland dap him up. That legitimately earned the respect of players like that. And you know that he's at least a guy that the players, coaches, and management will remember next time around.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was a great game for Vilmer Ulrichsen. I tweeted out, keep Vilmer Ulrichsen forever. It's a great first showing. And again, this is a guy that impressed in young stars, got rewarded with it, had a good training camp, got rewarded with a preseason game. He's the only junior player that's getting a preseason game with the Canucks. Might be a cut soon, but I don't know. I don't think he'll get in tonight, but nonetheless, a strong showing from Vilmer Ulrichsen. Harm, before we move on to talking about Calgary, I wanted to kind of loop back a bit on Aatu Raty here, because we were having the conversation yesterday of these guys that are trying to get the 13th forward spot. I said Sammy Blais has the inside track. If Sammy Blais had the inside track yesterday at this time, he certainly lost it with his game last night. I wanted to see more. I wanted to see more from Sammy Blais. I think Sammy Blais wanted to see more from himself, and Tocchet spoke post-game. Again, I want to point out, Tocchet sounded like he's talking about Sammy Blais being here for the season, talking about working with Sammy Blais, that they're going to continue to work with Sammy and that they want him to, improve his fitness a little bit. I don't think he has the inside track anymore, but he's still going to get some games. He's still going to get some opportunities. He's going to play tonight in Calgary. But of those players that we were talking about yesterday, I don't think we were talking about Aatu Raty at this time yesterday, but now it feels like he's got the leg up.
100%. I still imagined before the preseason game, it's tough because in training camp, you can't fully gauge how players look in certain environments. But I imagine with Raty trying to transition to center that it might be something that requires a little bit more time. And with somebody like Oman, he's just a little bit more experienced there. But I mean, after last night's game, how could you not think that Raty is a legit contender for that 13th forward spot as well? And of course, it's just one game. It's a long preseason. There are 6 games total, so he'll need to be able to sustain that level. And who knows who's going to have a big night tonight and through the rest of the week. But certainly something that I think he's 100% part of the mix now. And Linus Karlsson as well. I feel like we can't overlook him. You were talking about him like he was already cut. And again, let me be very clear. I don't even think Linus Karlsson is that good. I just didn't think you should talk about him like he's already been cut.
Okay, but let's be real here. We're talking about guys who are in contention to get that 13th forward spot. I think Max Hasson's stock is down. Sammy Blais' stock is down. And then I wrote Linus Karlsson still doesn't matter when I was doing my show notes.
Oh, come on. Stop lying to yourself.
The chat won't be very happy about that. They're already, the first 5 messages today were all on you about, I guess Quads has to change his tune on Karlsson now.
No.
It still doesn't matter. Is very pro Linus Karlsson.
Right?
He was heavy. He was disruptive on the forecheck. He was winning battles. A couple of power moves towards the net and being able to dish it off. And remind me again, who had that sweet assist on Höglander's goal again?
It was Linus Karlsson. You looked right at me when it happened. But still, come on. He's not.
Admit it. You were wrong. You were wrong. Just admit it.
Might have been wrong. Might have been. Tough to say. Linus Karlsson's gonna get another opportunity tonight on Raty, and yeah, obviously the Linus Karlsson thing. It's a story we're gonna follow. That's what we'll leave it at. Tonight, it's an interesting challenge for Raty playing in back-to-back games because he's not gonna have Garland and Höglander. When we kind of look at the playing roster for tonight, of the forwards, we know that Elias Pettersson's going to play in this game. He's going to have Jake DeBrusk on his wing, and you would assume that Jonathan Lekkerimäki would get the shot with Elias Pettersson, he's also going to play in the game tonight, Lekkerimäki. So I think he's going to be on that top line. They didn't show lines today. It was an optional skate, but I'm just trying to project the second line, Harm. I would assume Raty is going to be on the second line. Is he going to play with Arshdeep Bains? Maybe he's got Kiefer Sherwood on his wing. Phil DiGiuseppe's playing in this game. Is he going to get Daniel Sprong on his wing? There's some options here, but you assume that Raty is going to be the second line center tonight for the Canucks against Calgary.
Yeah, I'd love to see Sherwood on his wing, just because Sherwood, again, brings that speed, brings that pain in the neck element on the forecheck, which complements Raty in how he plays positionally, how he supports the puck, how he likes to stay above the play. So to have Sherwood almost as a poor man's Garland, just as this disruptor who's elusive down low, can ramp up the pace of that line. I really like that potential fit. I hope, especially because Sherwood also has some offensive upside. So if Raty's out there making plays, I'm not worried about offensive chances dying on Sherwood's stick the way I might be if it's PDG on that line, for example.
Okay, let's continue the conversation about tonight's game. On the other side, I want to quickly get to our poll question, which is Raty themed. It's our poll question, and it is brought to you by our friends over at Mr. Lube. Split vote here, Harm. The question is, will Aatu Raty make the opening night roster? 48.4% say yes, 51.6% say no. My heart's telling me yes, mostly because I don't want Linus Karlsson to make the roster, and then I really have to admit I'm wrong. But no, my heart's telling me yes, but Harm, you have to do it consistently. And I was talking to some people who watched Raty a lot in the AHL last year, and they said, be wary of it because Raty sometimes has really strong games, and it's that consistency that he struggled with, let alone on back-to-back nights. Can you go do it in 2 nights in a row, especially with new line mates? It's a new challenge for Raty tonight, so I'm really curious to see how he fares with this challenge. My heart's telling me yes. I think this is a good poll question. It's got a pretty split vote. I'd say if I had to guess right now, yes, that face-off prowess is, I think, impossible to ignore. I tweeted out last night that if he was right-handed and he was a right-handed center, he'd be a lock to make this roster. Someone pointed out to me, a few people pointed out to me, he flips his stick so that he has his it's not really taking it right-handed, but you're flipping your stick. It's interesting. It's an interesting way to go about it. So I say yes right now. I say yes, Aatu Raty will make the opening night roster. Might be a little too rose-colored.
By the way, that Raty flipping his stick, isn't that something Faber talked about like 2 years ago? Were you not like paying attention when he brought it up?
He's talked about it, but I'm talking about like actually doing it because he didn't do it last night, right? Like that's what I'm saying is he does it once in a while in an AHL game. That doesn't matter to me. I want to see you actually do it in a game. So that's what I'm saying is he should start doing it, and then he'd be the right-handed center that they needed.
Yeah, okay. I don't know about that explanation because we've seen it at the AHL level, but okay.
He didn't. No, what I mean is he didn't do it last night.
I thought he flipped it at didn't he?
So some people in the Sakaris and Price live chat this morning said that he did do it on a couple face-offs last night.
My mistake. I was trying to watch. I was specifically trying to watch for it too.
Oh, well, okay. Did you pay attention at all last night? Because they were also using that new intermission horn, and I swear to God, everybody in press row was noticing it, and we were talking about it. And I remember it went off in the first, at the end of the first period, and I'm like, "Oh, Quads, did you hear that? That sounded like such a wimpy horn." Because me and J-Pat were talking about it, and he's like, "Oh, what?" You're like, "Oh, what? What's going on?" And I'm like, "Okay, whatever. Just pay attention for it next time." Start of the second period, it goes off again. I'm like, "Quaz, did you notice?" Nothing again. End of the second period again. You're somehow so oblivious, living in La La Land. It took you until the end of the game, I think, end of the third period, to finally pick up on the horde.
The Canucks Army account posted it, and that's how I heard it for the first time. But these are okay. These are the comments about Raty flipping his stick. Leia D in the YouTube live chat. Yes, he did. Chris Moreau, he absolutely did it last night.
You had me tripping up. I was like, am I sounding stupid for bringing this up?
Karn, Quads isn't even watching the game. He's too focused on his Mariners bets. Oh man, this is good. This is good. Oh yeah, Chris Moreau. See, if I was watching the broadcast, I would have got this. He said they literally talked about it when he did it. I wasn't watching the broadcast. See, that's what was wrong. Was I was at the game.
Yeah, that's what was wrong. Not your lack of attention.
Okay. Anyways, what are you saying on the poll question? Yes or no? Does he make the roster?
It's too early to predict that. I mean, there's 5 games left to go. Again, the consistency aspect is going to be huge. You're also going to see. I mean, in the Seattle game, he definitely went up against NHL level competition, but also the closer you get to the start of the regular season, that's when veterans are ramping up their physicality, their intensity. They're just more dialed in compared to the start of preseason. So that'll be another challenge, another test. So it's too early for me to go out there and predict it. I don't think there's a clear-cut lead favorite for who's going to win that 13th forward slot yet. I hope Raty has the inside track based off that first preseason game. But there's no point speculating about that when there's still another handful of games left to go.
Yeah, we still have a lot to learn. The only thing we really know is that it's not going to be Linus Karlsson. All right, that was our poll question, brought to you by Mr. Lube. Mr. Lube and Tires Change Your Oil, Change Your Wipers event is on now. Visit MrLube.com to download your coupon for a free pair of Goodyear hybrid wiper blades with any oil change for a limited time at Mr. Lube. Find them at one of their 18 locations in the Lower Mainland. All right, Harm, let's preview tonight's game. This segment is brought to you by the Vancouver Whitecaps. Folks, tonight is the night. Vancouver Whitecaps FC are hosting the TELUS Canadian Championship on Wednesday, September 25th with a 7 p.m. kickoff at BC Place. The Caps are looking to three-peat as winners of the Voyageurs Cup and will be taking on Toronto FC, who they beat for the Cup in an epic shootout in 2022. With a win, the Caps can book their spot into the 2025 CONCACAF Champions Cup, and there's a free t-shirt for the first 10,000 fans with 50% off all beverages until kickoff, so get there early. Caps TFC TELUS Canadian Championship Wednesday, September 25th. The atmosphere at BC Place for Cup Finals is always unmatched, so get your tickets now. Check out whitecapsfc.com. Okay, Harm, we have the playing roster for tonight. We kind of touched on it in the first segment there. Looks like Elias Pettersson's going to be skating with Jake DeBrusk and Jonathan Lekkerimäki. Beyond Lekkerimäki, I am really excited to see Jake DeBrusk and Elias Pettersson get some game action together.
Absolutely. I also think this is an environment where you want a lot of Canuck players to perform well, because looking at Calgary's roster, I mean, who's the best forward that they're icing? It's a really young squad. Is it Matt Coronado? Or actually, no, it's Connor Zary. He was pretty good for the Flames last year. But the point being, up front, that's a really young roster. The Canucks are definitely icing more top end talent, and even on the back end, you know, Tyson Barrie's a vet, but at this point, he's like a 6'7" type defenseman. You got Jake Bean. You got a bunch of fringe defensemen, and then some youngsters as well. So absolutely, this is the environment where you want Pettersson and DeBrusk to build some chemistry. You want Lekkerimäki, Sprong, even a lot of the fringe Vancouver forwards like Oman, Sasson, PDG, the Blade. The pressure is going to be on them to make an impression, even though for some of these guys, it's the second leg of a back-to-back. The competition level just isn't very high based off what Calgary is icing.
Is Yanni Yermo in the lineup today?
Yeah.
Yes.
When did they sign him to an ELC?
I remember seeing it. I don't remember how long ago.
And he was at Young Stars as well, and he actually got some good looks at Young Stars. Like, you know, he was getting. I think the game against the Canucks, he was probably their second or third ice time leader as far as defensemen go. So
since when
they are seriously looking at this kid.
He's always been
6'5"?
Yeah.
Wow, I should have liked him a lot more while he was here.
You should never know what you have. He's not very good.
You never know what you have till it's gone. You never know what you have till it's gone, Harm. Yeah, no, he's not good. I did find it really funny just now that I realized that he's in the lineup. Wow, people are right. I'm really not paying attention.
I'm telling you, because he's big and he skates well. So 100%, you'd watch one game and be like, yep, this guy's going to be the next Tyler Myers or whatever. But then you watch him more consistently and you're like, he cannot forget NHL level reads, like pro level reads. The IQ is just not there decision-making wise with or without the puck.
Speaking of which, before anyone else, Jacob, your task during the rest of this segment while Harm and I preview this game, go find me the video of the 6'11" USHL defenseman. Go find that video. I want it for
I will
anyone.
find it.
Thank you. I want it for anyone else. Okay, Harm, as we continue to preview tonight's game, like we said, different challenge for Aatu Raty. We don't know who his wingers are going to be. Like I said earlier, optional skate for the team today. We're assuming Jiri Patera is going to start in goal. Another question I have just about this lineup, Philip Hronek's not dressing. Quinn Hughes is going to play with either Noah Juulsen, or you would assume maybe he gets a look with Vinny Desharnais, but he spent the entire preseason with Noah Juulsen. Are you expecting it's going to be a Hughes-Juulsen pairing tonight?
I don't know, to be honest. It's interesting because, like, if they do go with Hughes and Juulsen, the thing I'm wondering is why, right? Because
totally,
I've made this point before that I don't see Juulsen leapfrogging Desharnais for that opening night right side chart, right? Because Hronek and Myers are obviously locks. And then they just went out and signed Desharnais for $2 million. The coaching staff believes that Desharnais has more upside than what he's shown to this point. They're not going to sit him in the press box game one of the regular season. So if that's the case, why would you not rather see Desharnais in that role? Because Desharnais, look, don't get me wrong, I don't want to see a Hughes Desharnais pair game one of the regular season, but it's an option that you might turn to at some point in the season. So I'm even curious about the thought process behind why Hughes and Juulsen were put together in the first place. And that's where, again, circling back to some of our conversations at training camp, I wonder if part of it was also just getting Hronek to be a leader in his own training camp group, to mentor DPD, because you know that Hughes and Hronek have such good chemistry together that they don't need a lot of tune-up time together before the games actually start.
Curious to get a look at Vinny Desharnais tonight. It was a guy that at training camp, we talked about it. The drills weren't really Vinny Desharnais drills, like not much that he could excel in at training camp. So I'm curious how he looks in a game setting. People in the chat were asking about the backup goaltender. Last night it was Ty Young. Tonight it is going to be Nikita Tolopilo. I don't know if Tolopilo gets the start. Like he might. We said we assume Jiri Patera, but I think it might be Nikita Tolopilo too. Again, we don't know just yet, but Nikita Tolopilo and Jiri Patera are the two goaltenders tonight. Kevin Lankinen's continuing to skate with the non-playing group. Tocchet said he thinks he might get in on Friday or Saturday's game. Friday, the Canucks, of course, play the Seattle Kraken again, and Saturday, they play the Calgary Flames. Both of those games are on the road. Okay, Harm, let's get to... Yeah.
I've actually got a question for you related to the goaltending. If you look at Vancouver's depth chart in net beyond Demko, Shilovs, Lankinen, who do you think is next up at this stage? Is it Patera? Is it Tolopilo? Do you know how the organization feels about these two younger goaltenders?
So when they brought in Jiri Patera, the idea was, okay, there's a lot of raw tools there, and maybe he can become an NHL backup. Like that was it with Patera. It wasn't that we think this guy's going to be an NHL backup. When they signed Jiri Patera, there was no idea that, we're going to roll into the year with Shilovs and Patera. And I think that's evident based on as soon as that looked like it was going to be the case, they went out and got Kevin Lankinen. So Patera's, he's older, but he's got some skills and he's got a lot of raw power, like a lot of power in his legs. And I think they looked at that and said, maybe this is something we can work with. So Patera's more of a project. That being said, so is Nikita Tolopilo. Nikita Tolopilo is a younger project though. And he was, like right there with Shilovs last year during the regular season. Quite frankly, there were stretches where Nikita Tolopilo was the better goaltender. He had a really strong first year in the AHL. So if you're asking me who's next man up, I really think it's Patera and Tolopilo battling for that spot, but I would give the inside edge to Nikita Tolopilo right now as it stands. I think the organization has more of a vested interest in him. He's younger. He's I don't want to say come up with them because he was a European free agent, but like he's really adapted the concepts and the systems that Ian and Marco are trying to teach their goaltenders. And he looks like a Canucks goaltender ultimately. Whereas, guys who sign with the organization sometimes take some time to become that Canucks goaltender. How sharp are they with their RVH, all that sort of stuff. I would give the edge to Tolopilo right now. Like, I think you're in a position like last year with Shilovs. I think that's where Tolopilo is now, where he's going to be the guy in Abbotsford, or he's going to split starts in Abbotsford. And that's just the nature of the AHL. He's going to split starts in Abbotsford just like he did last year. But instead of Shilovs getting the call up because he's already here, it's going to be Tolopilo. That's the next man up here. In kind of that fourth spot, I guess, on the depth chart. And then I would have Jiri Patera at number 5.
Yeah, it's fascinating because I, of course, am not a goaltending expert by any means, but it was interesting in the offseason, for example. I think EP Rinkside put out their rankings for some of the top goaltending prospects around the league. Of course, Shilovs was in the top 10 somewhere. But Tolopilo, I think, was 14th or 15th, and it surprised me. I didn't think that he'd have that much cachet or that much perceived potential.
Yeah, like it's like I said, man. It's just that if Shilovs is top 10, you also have to put some respect on Nikita Tolopilo because he, like I said, he was right there with Shilovs. The only difference is that Tolopilo didn't get the opportunity to play playoff games. And again, we talked about him when he came here, a 924% save percentage in the Allsvenskan the year before he signed in Vancouver, and last year like a 905. That's a fine year in the AHL, and it's not like the Abbotsford Canucks were world beaters last year. So it's interesting. It's an interesting question, and it's going to be interesting to see how he plays. He's got a glorious setup, by the way. Have you seen his new pads?
No, I haven't.
They're great. They're wonderful. If you haven't, go to CanucksArmy.com, look up Nikita Tolopilo. You will see his pads they're great. They're great. He debuted them at Young Stars. Okay, let's get to anyone else because we actually have some questions in both of our chats right now. This is anyone else, and is presented by the Vancouver Canadians. The Seas thank fans for another great season at the Nat this summer. If you're looking to guarantee your seat for all the action in 2025, please visit CanadiansBaseball.com or call 604-872-5232. I'll tell you, with this rain, it's only been a couple days, already missing the Nat. So folks, make sure you don't miss out. Go check it out, CanadiansBaseball.com. All right, some questions in the chat here on Facebook, and a few people asked this actually. Chris Harrington in the Facebook chat said, where can I live stream the game tonight? No Sportsnet broadcast, but our pal Brennan Batchelor will be on the call tonight. It is going to be a Canucks.com stream from the Abbotsford Center. I'll tell you what, Harm. Were you with me when I sat next to Batch in the press box? You were there, right? When he called the game at the scrimmage?
Yep.
Well, first of all, I had to leave before the game started because we were told to be quiet, and I was like, I'm just not going to risk it. Like, I can't help myself from talking, especially to Batch. Like, I talk to Batch a lot. So, Batch was sitting next to me. I was watching him do his warm up. That dude's a pro. And not like anybody needed to hear it, but it was just so cool to watch him kind of warm up. And he's just like, yeah, he's dialed. And his warm up of the Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen pickled peppers or something, it was crazy. It
was wild. Honestly, play-by-play and even color commentary to a lesser extent, I don't think people realize just how difficult of a craft that is, especially because the way that they call the game, it makes you think that they have such a perfect view, but a lot of the times these broadcasters don't have, like, they're watching for far distances, especially depending on the NHL rank.
He was in the corner at the South Okanagan event.
Wild.
Yeah.
I've had to do some play-by-play in junior hockey before. It is not easy. Mad props to everyone who does it. And yeah, like in Penticton, that broadcast booth is in the corner. You know, some of the junior hockey rinks you get in, you're going to be like low. In Cowichan, the visiting team broadcast booth is literally in the crowd. They like removed seats and just kind of built a little press box with fans all around you. So for the broadcasters who have like come up in Batch, obviously spent a year in the BCHL, did all those rinks, you know, I can understand. And, you know, when you see someone like Batch, like, oh yeah, he's been through it all. And it led to really one of the best play-by-play guys. We're spoiled in Vancouver with Shorty and Batch. Like, it was really two of the best out there.
All right, Brad in the YouTube live chat, was Ian Clark in Penticton? I didn't see Ian Clark, but I don't know specifically if he was there or not there. I wouldn't be surprised if he wasn't. Like, he's a scout now, right? Like, he's a scout and development coach. Did you see him?
I mean, I don't know if I saw him in Penticton. I saw him at the game last night.
Yeah, he was at the game last night. Yeah. I don't know. It's a long drive to Penticton. Okay. There was another one. Oh no, let me get to this. Can you pull up the video, Jacob? This 6'11"
Yes.
defenseman.
I do have to add a bit of context. So his elite prospects list him at 7 feet.
Oh hell yeah.
He is 16 years old. His name is
man.
Alexander Karmanov from Russia. He is a Penn State University commit for 2027-28. So this is him at like a U16 showcase for some USHL teams, and it is something.
Look.
We'll play that again. I'll try and get that
Look
full
at his
screen.
size for the people on the podcast. Can you post this on the Canucks Army Twitter just so people, or post this as a clip so people can see it? Look at this kid go. Look at that stick lift. That is so funny. He's those are. He's just a monster.
This reminds me of, I saw the other day some clip of a 7'3" Canadian basketball kid who's 13 and 7'3".
Oh yeah.
And it's just a highlight reel of him in whatever league he's playing in Canada. It's funny just like watching all these kids that are barely like 5'5", 5'6", and then just watching the 7'3" monster that's just like towering over them, and nobody can contest him on the way to just getting whatever layups and dunks he wants.
It's so good. And look, I'm just gonna say it. That 6'11" kid, I know a lot of people are gonna point out, oh well, his skating wasn't great. Tell me, Harm, can you look up skating lessons? Yeah, I think every municipality in Canada offers skating lessons. You know what you can't get lessons for? Tell me, Harm.
Being 6'11".
Being 6'11",
But
you
also,
cannot teach size.
How many defensemen are there in the NHL right now 6'11" or taller?
None. This guy's gonna be a trailblazer.
And so actually, I just looked like, yeah, he looked pretty slow there. Elite Prospects already has his stats from 2 games in that league. He's got 2 goals and 3 assists in those 2 games.
Okay,
and 28 penalty minutes in 2 games. So this guy is absolutely like tearing up this league already.
What's his name again?
Alexander Karmanov, Karmanov. He is Russian and Moldovan. So
Alexander Karmanov.
Yeah, he was born in Moldova, which would be kind of crazy if you get like a 7-foot Moldovan kid making the NHL one day.
Future Dan Milstein client?
Right there. I'm putting that on the wall so I never forget it. I will put this on my wall. Cue card for those on the podcast. Cue card that says Alexander Karmanov. Put it on the wall, and I'll just randomly shout that name out. We'll get Karmanov updates every month. I think that's something we'll do on the show.
At some point, we'll have to have him on the show if you're this vested in him.
I'll ask Dave Hall to include him in the Blackfish report. And it's like, and because my boss said include Alexander Karmanov updates, here's what Alexander Karmanov did. Yeah, it's just 6'11". Come on. That's great. I love it. And you, like I said, you can get skating coaches. You can't get size coaches. Okay. Do we have anything in the chat here? Okay. This one from Karn. Seeing how well Brustevich is developing and the Canucks not holding on to Elias Lindholm, is it fair that the Canucks overpaid for Elias Lindholm last year?
No, the Canucks don't get to that point, Game 7 of Round 2, without Elias Lindholm, right? Look at the overtime winner that he scored in the Nashville series. He, I think, was tied for the lead among Canucks players and for points in that Oilers series, especially with Elias Pettersson struggling mightily in the playoffs. Lindholm was a key cog. And so to me, the price that the Canucks gave up, they gave up a lot of quantity. I don't know that they gave up a lot of quality in the sense of like true blue chip prospects. Brustevich is a decent prospect. Don't get me wrong. He's going to be an intriguing player to watch, but even organizationally, with the Canucks already having Quinn Hughes and Filip Hronek as offensive defensemen, Brustevich also profiling as more of an undersized offensive defenseman, I don't mind that they included him in that trade, given how impactful Lindholm was in the playoffs. That's a good trade in my books.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, they don't get there without Elias Lindholm. Okay, this one from Richard Dye. Do you think it's going to be Sprong or Mackey? Letter Mackey, as Talkie would say. on PD's wing tonight. I didn't think of that. Like, I didn't think of the Daniel Sprong aspect of it. Of course, I still think it's going to be Jonathan Lekkerimäki. I don't think you play him there all of training camp and then take him away as soon as it's a preseason game where he gets a chance to play there. I think it's going to be that trio. And like I said, I wonder where Daniel Sprong plays. You'd hope that it's with Aatu Raty. Like, I would love to see a second line tonight of like Daniel Sprong, Aatu Raty, and Kiefer Sherwood.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind those combos at all, but also if you think that Sprong, if you're leaning towards Lekkerimäki maybe is more likely to start in the AHL than the NHL, not to say that he doesn't have a chance of making the main team, because he absolutely does, but if you're leaning towards it being a less likely outcome, then at some point, would you not also want to get a look at Sprong on that line too? So I can understand the argument both ways, and I'm curious to see what they'll roll with tonight.
Alec Taylor making a good point. You'll probably see both guys getting a shot in that spot. Okay, Happy Jack said, just got here, so if it's been said already, I apologize, but seeing Shilovs play the way he did last night was very comforting. That's the other aspect of it that I don't think we really touched on, Harm, was just that there's been a lot of questions, and there's going to be questions because, of course, we've never seen Artur Shilovs play more than 8 regular season games. He's got more playoff games than he does regular season games at the NHL level under his belt, and he has been a very up and down goaltender throughout his young career during the regular season. So there are questions. Look, I love me some Artur Shilovs. It's a good thing they got Kevin Lankinen. But we have been asked the question of like, okay, well, who's going to start opening night? Is it going to be Lankinen or is it going to be Shilovs? It's going to be the guy that got you as far as you did in the playoffs. He's earned that opening night start. He's going to be the starter. I said it before, though. Like, I think it's going to be a pretty even split, especially to start the year. I think we are going to see Kevin Lankinen getting his fair share of starts to start the year as well.
Yeah, especially now that he was excellent in the scrimmage, excellent in that first preseason game. He's starting to really round into form.
Okay, let's get to, or sorry, did you have anything else before we get to our Bet365 bet of the day?
Gonna double check here. I don't think so, no.
Wow, you dragged that one out a little bit. I like it. You made people think you almost had something there.
Gotta keep them on their toes.
I love it. Let's get to our Bet365 bet of the day, which is brought to you by our friends over at Bet365. Harmon, it is JT Miller to lead the league in power play points at plus 2,500 odds. The same odds as Cale Makar. You can get Quinn Hughes at plus 3,000. I think that's what I'll do instead of Mariners bets. I'm just going to start poking around at like the futures odds. JT Miller, pretty high up on that list to lead the league in power play points. Jack Hughes, again, Jack Hughes and Quinn Hughes have the same odds at plus 3,000, but JT Miller, you can get him at plus 2,500 odds. That one over at Bet365, a proud partner of Canucks Conversation. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets, whatever the sport, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Be sure to use code VANBONUS when you sign up for an account. All right, Jacob, do we have all our survey responses in? Like, do we have 100 responses?
Yeah. We've been getting them quick. Like I think we got to 100 back on like Monday or Tuesday. We got it after the Tuesday show. So we are good for Family Feud tomorrow.
I love it. This one from Brad, as we continue anyone else quickly here. He said, with the new Amazon docuseries and Quinn Hughes in it, what Canuck would you want to see in the next one? I had a bit last year, off-camera bit, where it was Philip Hronek, and it was just the cameras following him around and him refusing to talk to them. And he's like, yeah, this morning I had some cereal. That's what I eat every day, some scrambled eggs. I don't put any salt on it, though, or any pepper. I just scrambled eggs. That's what I do every day. So my answer is Philip Hronek. It's going to be Philip Hronek. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, I think the producers and the camera crews would immediately cancel the show if Philip Hronek was the star of it. I'm looking around. I think Can
I give you a legit answer that might be a little off the board?
A JT would be fun.
I was gonna say JT or Rick Tocchet. Like, just
both
have
would
a camera
be really good.
Follow Rick Tocchet, like him being like, yeah, today we're going on a walk on the seawall and I'm bringing this player with me because he's been struggling, but we're not going to talk about his struggles. We're just going to talk about his dog or whatever. Like, I love what Rick Tocchet's all about when it comes to connecting with his players. So I would love to see a Rick Tocchet documentary.
Remember last year that video came up from when he was in Pittsburgh, like him making spaghetti.
I was just gonna say now he's got a personal chef,
he can reprise the role now, right? Instead of making spaghetti, now he'll just walk with players on the seawall.
Yeah, I like it. Okay, let's close it out there. I just want to say tomorrow we'll be back in studio, and we've got a new studio. Are we allowed to tell people that now, Jacob?
Yeah, we'll use the new setup tomorrow. It's not finished, but it is perfectly functional. So we will give it a go tomorrow.
Perfectly functional. Our motto here at Canucks Convo.
No, it's just we're gonna decorate it with some shelves and some extra lights, but all that stuff is still being ordered. But it is good to go. The audio is all hooked up. We will be on the new set tomorrow.
Looking forward to it. We'll be talking about a game tonight. Reminder, folks, tonight, 7 o'clock puck drop. You can find the stream over at Canucks.com, Sportsnet 650. We'll have the radio call. For my co-host, Harman Dial, and our technical producer, Jacob Lazar, my name is David Quadrelli. Thank you so much for listening to an episode of the Canucks Conversation. Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.